The first of the language exercises for Chapter 3 simply asks you to memorize the cow perfect paradigm. You should be able to say and write the paradigm quickly and with no difficulty or doubt from memory. Remember that in Hebrew study we begin with the third masculine singular form of the verb. So you with katal ought to be able to say katal, katala, katalta, katalt, katalti, katalu, kutaltim, kutaltin, katalnu, and write that out. Remember to write both the consonants and the vowels, as they all are part of spelling the word correctly. The second part of this exercise then asks you to use the cow perfect paradigm of katal, which you have memorized, to make the cow perfect form of several other verbs. Remember that basic Hebrew verbs have a three-letter root. And you can take the vowel pattern and ending that you have now learned in the cow perfect paradigm of katal and apply it to any other verb to make the cow perfect form of that verb. So the first of the exercises asks you to work with the root malak, which is glossed as to reign or to rule. And remember, as we look at malak, that this third root letter, the kaf, is written in its final form. But in the middle of the word, you would write the more traditional medial form. So to take the cow perfect paradigm of malak, what you would do is take these three root letters and then apply the endings and vowels from the perfect paradigm of katal that you have memorized. So for the third masculine singular, you would begin with malak, and notice that there is no ending, and so all we need to do is copy the vowel pattern. And so he reigned or ruled would simply be malak. The third feminine singular, on the other hand, has both an ending in the paradigm, so we need to apply the ending of he, and then we need to apply the vowel pattern, malaka. And we would do so forth through the rest of the paradigm. We would have malak root letters for the second masculine singular. Now we need to add the ending of tav and the vowel pattern, ma, lak, ta. And so we would go through the rest of the paradigm. Ma, locked for the second feminine singular, and then ma, lakti for the first common singular, and then do the plurals. So in exercise B, do this exercise to practice using the cow perfect paradigm of katal as a means to understanding the cow perfect conjugation of any particular verb. Exercise C then begins the process that will consume much of your learning of Hebrew of parsing verbs. Parsing a verb, remember, is giving all the necessary grammatical information to translate that word correctly. So with our example, we have gadalta. Now, at this point in your parsing knowledge, the only verbal form you know is the cow perfect. So we begin by saying cow perfect, and now we need to figure out the person, gender, number, root, and then the gloss, the way we would translate the word. Now, the way to do this is to remember that a Hebrew root will have three letters, and so you should first look for any additional letters on the end of the word that match your paradigm. So when I see gadalta, I see this ta at the end, and I realize that that is from the paradigm. In fact, it is the second masculine singular ending. So I can now parse this word as cow perfect, second masculine singular, and I have three letters left, which are the root letters, Gimel, Dalet, Lamed. If I know that word from my vocabulary, I'm now ready to give a gloss, a rough and ready translation. If I don't know that word from my vocabulary, I will need to look it up in the lexicon, and then I'll be able to give the gloss, the rough and ready translation. So in this case, you, masculine singular, notice masculine singular, grew up. Do this for the rest of the parsing exercise in Part C. With your knowledge of this basic form of the Hebrew verb called the Cal perfect, you are now able, just in the 3rd chapter of the book, to start reading simple Hebrew sentences. For instance, 2 Kings 8:25, Malak Ahazyahu. Now, in the beginning of the book, we are giving names in gray type so that you don't spend a lot of time searching your lexicon for something that's a name. What you want to do, though, in translating a Hebrew sentence is not start with the nouns. First, find the verb and parse that verb. After you have parsed the verb and given a gloss for it, then figure out how the rest of the sentence goes together. So if I see this 2-word sentence from 2 Kings 8:25, Malak Ahazyahu, I'm going to realize that this is my verb, and I'm going to start here. Malak is a Cal perfect, and then I notice there is no ending, simply the 3 root letters, and I realize that is the 3rd masculine singular form. It is the same form as your paradigm, katal, just with the root letters, malak. So Cal perfect, 3rd masculine singular of malak, he ruled. After doing that, I can then look at the rest of the sentence, and in this case I have a noun that fits naturally and easily as the subject. Ahazyahu ruled. Do this for the rest of exercise D, beginning to translate these very simple sentences from the scripture. Now in exercise E, continue the practice of reading the text aloud. Again, at this point in your study, you should not expect to know what each of these words means or how to translate them. You should simply be working on seeing the symbols of the alphabet and verbal system and making sure you can correctly pronounce each word. As before, we will go verse by verse. Start with verse 6, the first verse of this section. Pause the video, speak it aloud yourself until you think you have it right, and then listen to me pronounce it. Verse 6. Vayomer Elohim Yehi Rakia Batok Hamayim Vihi Mavdil Bain Mayim Lamayim. Now pause the video and work through verse 7. Verse 7. Vaya'as Elohim et harakia Vayavdel Bain Hamayim Asher Mitachat La Rakia Uvein Hamayim Asher Me'al La Rakia Vayhi Kain. Now work on verse 8. Verse 8. Vayikra Elohim La Rakia Shamayim Vayhi Erev Vayhi Boker Yom Sheni. Now work on verse 9. Verse 9. Vayomer Elohim Yikavu Hamayim Mitachat Hashamayim El Makom Echad V'tera'eh Hayavasha Vayhi Kain. Now finally, pause the video and work on verse 10. Verse 10. Vayikra Elohim Layavasha Eretz Ulamikva Hamayim Kara Yamim Vayar Elohim ki tov. Finally, Section 10 gives you an exegetical exercise looking at the book of Judges, chapter 5, the second part of verse 7. And this exegetical exercise will enable you to consider and think about why English translations differ noticeably in how they translate this section. The text is Ad shakamti devorah. Shakamti aim b'Yisrael. Enjoy learning enough from the Cal Perfect to understand the differing translations that you see for the second half of verse 7.